One of the questions that I'm asked frequently again is, do I believe the church has been deceived or mankind has been deceived? And my answer is emphatically, absolutely, positively, as I say, indubitably. Starting from the very beginning, it's important to understand that we operate in a level of deception. Let me explain what I mean by that. There are three sources to deception. The first source of deception is the fact that we don't see from God's vantage point. So we don't see from his vision. We don't see have his understanding. We don't have his knowledge. We don't have his wisdom. And so he spends time providing us with that. The Bible tells us that the Lord is our provider. His goal is to provide us with his knowledge, his wisdom, his understanding, his vision. As a matter of fact, the Bible tells us that his goal is to reveal to us everything that he wants us to know. His goal is to reveal to us his mysteries, it says in the book of Revelations. His goal is to reveal to us the mystery that was once held from us, Christ in us, the hope of glory. His desire is for us to know the things that have been freely given to us by him. And so there are so many things that we just don't see the way God sees it. Our thoughts are not his thoughts. Neither are our ways his ways. As high as the heavens are above the earth, so are his thoughts higher than our thoughts, and his ways higher than our ways. And so the whole process of God creating mankind initiated a training process where God would train us to be like him. He made us in his image and after his likeness, and he wanted to give us the knowledge, wisdom, understanding, vision, etc. of that image and likeness. It was the only thing that was not given to us, because that was something that we had to grow based upon our own decision-making process, that we would choose God. We would choose to know God. We would choose to be in relationship with God. We would choose God's way as opposed to our own way. We have a sovereign will. We can choose anything we want. That's why I'd say all the time, people can choose any life they want. God bless them. Let them choose any life they want. And frankly, I hope they are happy, because if they reject the Lord, the only happiness they'll ever find is in this life here. People who are not going to reject the Lord, they have every right to live the way they want to live. And the truth of the matter is, we can live twice. You hear this term YOLO. You only live once. That's only true for an unbeliever. A person that rejects God lives once. It's appointed unto man once to live, and afterwards the judgment. If he's judged to be unapproved to spend eternity with God, he will die in hell. The soul will be annihilated or killed, as Jesus said. And so there is this understanding of YOLO, this declaration, this slogan, but it only applies. It's true. It's not truth, but it applies to those who will only live once. Then there are those of us who will live twice. We will live in this earth, the physical life, and we will live a spiritual life for eternity that God has for us. All right. We don't see all of that. We don't understand all of that. God has to impart that to us. So there's this growth and developmental process that God has initiated with mankind for us to grow into that. That's what the first Adam aborted. It was the first abortion. He aborted the role, the goal of God and the plan of God for his life. He and she. Now, God has designed for us to, as we build relationship with him, for us to receive more and more of him. This is the relationship building process. He didn't give us everything because then we don't need to build the relationship. He desires a relationship with us. We'll be learning about God. The Bible says he's fathomless. We cannot exhaust God. We'll be learning about God for eternity. We'll be learning about the self-existent one for eternity. Now, then there's a second source of deception. It started at the beginning also, satanic deception, where Satan deceived mankind because Satan first deceived angels to follow him to pull a coup against God, to fight against God, because he desired more than what God had given him. He wasn't content with what God had given him. Isn't that interesting? He wasn't content with what God had given him, so he seduced angels to follow him to rebel against God, and God kicked them all out of his kingdom. Rebellion always gets you kicked out of God's kingdom, or it doesn't allow you to go into God's kingdom. Then God creates mankind, and what does Satan do? Satan seduces man to do the exact same thing that he did. He was not content with what God had given him. So man rebelled against God as well. And ever since the beginning, Satan has been seducing spirits and seducing mankind. You say, why do I say that? Because when the sons of God came down and saw the daughters of men and took them as wives and cohabitated with them, that was part of the deception. That was part of the rebellion. Giants were born in those days. Satan has been trying to deceive mankind and been pretty successful at it throughout mankind's history. The Bible says all the way in the book of Revelations that he goes about to deceive the whole world. It says throughout and illustrates throughout that Satan deceives mankind. What does he do? The same thing that he deceived the first man. Lust of the eyes, lust of the flesh, and pride of life. It talks about it in the first epistle of John. So he's constantly trying to deceive mankind. His goal is to deceive mankind because he hates us. In my book, A Divine Communication from Heaven and Hell, I illustrate and talk about conversations with him. He hates us. We have no idea how much he hates us. We need to know how much he and demons hate us and why they hate us so much, and what lengths they're willing to go to so that we can experience the same condemnation that they experienced. And then we have the third source of deception, which is self-deception. The book of James in the first chapter says, be a doer of the word, not a hearer only, deceiving your own selves. Second, Timothy talks about men of God, it could be man or woman of God, of course, who teaches people that oppose themselves, who are put in the bondage of Satan according to his will. So if we hear the word, the wayside hearer, stony ground hearer, thorny ground hearer, and not do his word, we are practicing self-deception. We have become complicit and come into league with Satan to deceive us and to rob us of the eternity that God has set aside for us and the eternal reward that God has set aside for us. So has mankind been deceived? Absolutely, positively, and indubitably. But we need not be deceived. We can know the truth. Jesus said, ye shall know the truth, and the truth will make you free from the deception. Free from the deception of not seeing the way God sees because God shares that with us in relationship. Free from satanic deception because we have overcome the evil one. And free from self-deception because we are doers of his word, not hearers only, deceiving our own selves.